My church, Queen of Peace Catholic Church, has a lot of Selma history, more than one would expect. For one thing, Queen of Peace is built from the stones of war. The old Confederate arsenal was, of course, largely destroyed by the Union soldiers, but there were all these wonderful stones left to build up a church with. And by this time, there were enough Irish in Selma who come to work on the railroad that you could build a Catholic church. The church, which was originally called the Assumption of Our Lady, was built largely with the stones and dedicated on St. Patrick's Day of 1869. It was built in large part of generous donations from Selma's Protestant communities, partly because before the war, when the parties were in chaos, Selma had voted for the American Party, or the better also known as the Know Nothings, which were ostensibly a Protestant organization, an anti-Catholic organization. And after the war, a certain amount of embarrassment felt this, and many former members of the Know Nothing Party made generous contributions to help build the Catholics a church, and they got enough that they were actually able not only to build a church, but to build St. Andrew's Hall, which was largely from the ruins of the old Masonic building in Cahaba that was floated down the river, the Alabama River, to here and then hauled up to build. That was when the Jesuits were running, who of course are the American religious order most associated with education, ran and who were determined to make Selma an educational center. They recruited this group of French nuns known as the Madams of the Sacred Heart, who are still the aristocrats of American Catholic education, to come to Selma, where, alas, they discovered that they would not be teaching the daughters of the French aristocracy, but little Irish roughnecks. They stuck it out for 10 years and then were quite happy to pass the torch to the Sisters of Mercy, who taught in Selma for 100 years and have a special little plot in Live Oak Cemetery. Well, everybody has a plot somewhere in Live Oak Cemetery. During the Depression, a second Catholic mission was established, St. Elizabeth's Mission, to reaching out to the African Americans of Selma. The pastor there, Maurice Roulette, was practically the only local white who was involved in the civil rights movement. He was last expelled from the state by the Archbishop of Mobile, saying he didn't want a dead priest on his hands. Good point. But St. Elizabeth and the bishop decided, though, that Selma was too small and too Protestant a town to have two separate Catholic churches, and called in the leaders of both St. Elizabeth and Assumption to let them know that they had 6 months to become one happy, integrated Catholic family. And so Assumption and St. Elizabeth became Our Lady Queen of Peace, under the leadership of Father Nelson Sider, who had good friends on both sides of the racial divide. It hurt. Both white and black Catholics were giving up treasured traditions and associations. But for those who stuck, it became a very vital parish.